All right. Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to the May Planning Commission. Welcome, Planning Commission members, staff, and guests. Multiple staff members are here today to ensure that the meeting runs smoothly and all applicants and members of the public are able to participate in the meeting at the appropriate times.
Got this. If you're here today and would like to speak about a case, please provide your name clearly into the microphone, and please be sure to sign in either at the back of the room or at the podium for documentation purposes. If you're here today to speak about a case, you must speak up when the chairperson calls for public comment. I'll go ahead and call the roll. Mr. Causey? Here. Ms. Cubney?
Here.
Mr. Harp?
Here.
Mr. Holcomb?
Here.
Mr. Osorio?
Here.
And Mr. Cohn.
Here.
We have a quorum. I'll just read this part while we're waiting for the computer to come, if you don't mind. Just as a brief review of the meeting format, applicants with requests before the Planning Commission are allotted a presentation time of 10 minutes. This time should include, but is not limited to, an overview of the project, case history, and any pertinent meetings held regarding the request. This time also includes all persons presenting information on behalf of the applicant, such as attorneys, engineers, and architects. This time limit does not include any questions asked by the Planning Commission or staff regarding requests. During the public comment period, members of the general public are given the opportunity to address their concerns in intervals of 2 minutes. After the public comment period, applicants have 5 minutes to respond.
I think you got ahead of me on a slide.
Okay. The administrator has a timer and will make presenters aware of when their time has expired. The Planning Commission reserves the right to amend these procedures on a case-by-case basis. I don't believe we had any changes from publication on the agenda. And the Planning Commission uses the consent agenda to approve non-controversial or routine matters by a single motion and vote. Do you want me to just keep, okay. Examples of such items include approval of site plans, annexations, and street names. If a member of the Planning Commission or the general public wants to discuss an item on the consent agenda, you must speak up after the consent agenda is read. Then that item is removed from the consent agenda and considered during the meeting. The Planning Commission then approves the remaining consent agenda items. And we will just go ahead and start reading through the consent agenda. First is the approval of the April 10th, 2025 minutes. And the second case is under preliminary plat review. This is S-Plat-2024-0076, the 4,000 block of Broad River Road. Request preliminary plat approval for the construction of a 214-lot attached single-family residential subdivision, the Broad Vista Towns. The property is zoned RM2, Residential Mixed District, and the packet includes a traffic impact study. The next case on the consent agenda is a zoning text amendment, TA-2025-0008, 900 Calhoun Street. This is St. Timothy's Episcopal Church. Request recommendation to amend the Unified Development Ordinance, Chapter 17, Appendix C, Type 3, Landmarks, to establish the property as a City of Columbia landmark. And that concludes the consent agenda.
Thank you. I could get used to that. Are there any commission members that would like an item removed from the consent agenda for discussion? Are there any members of the public that would like to speak to one of these? Yes, sir. Would you please come to the podium?
I signed up back there. Is that good?
That is. Would you mind telling us your name?
My name is Javar Juarez. To the members of the board and to all citizens of Columbia and Richland County, I bring you warm greetings from the Broad River District. My name is Javar Juarez, and I serve as the president of the Broad River Business Alliance, and I'm here today to express my strong support and sincere enthusiasm for the proposed housing project under consideration for Broad Vista Drive. The Broad River District stretches from the confluence of the Broad River at Highway 176 to the Harbison National Forest. It is a region rich in biodiversity, home to not only a vibrant human population, but also native bird species such as the Carolina wren, the northern cardinal, blue jay, mourning dove, red-bellied woodpecker, American goldfinch, and northern mockingbird. I have seen all of those birds there, by the way. Our community also holds deep historical significance. It features spacious homes originally built by German Quakers and African descendants, and it is home to the historic 1923 Rosenwald School. Since the onset of the COVID-19 pandemic, the Broad River District has experienced a population increase of over 4,500 residents. This surge has created added pressure on our already limited housing capacity, particularly as more individuals and families displaced from public housing in the city of Columbia seek stability and refuge in our district. Hi, Commissioner Cossey, if you would pay attention to me, please. Many of our existing complexes have reached their
May I ask,
Looking at a map. Don't worry about me. You just talk.
are you in favor of this?
It's on the consent agenda.
I've got it. Or just to clarify, I appreciate you speaking, but it sounds like you're in favor of the proposed case?
The public is watching this meeting, and the members of my community have expressed concern about this project. I'm not here for you. I'm here for the public, and that matters because this is streamed citywide, is it not?
Well, I'm trying to understand, are you wanting to speak in opposition of this?
I'm not in opposition of this project. Our community members have concerns about the project. I'm here to inform them that such a property and proposal as this is good for our community. Just because you approve something does not mean that the general public is in favor of whatever it is that you approve. So I'm here today standing in the gap to tell members of my community, those in District 1 and the City of Columbia, that this is good for us to build. On my way here, members of the community were very concerned about this getting to the news, but nobody reaching out to members of our historic Black districts. That is a concern when things are built in our city, but nobody is communicating with the community at the community level that those things are built. What I don't want our community to do is have resentment or bitterness that something as beautiful as this is being built and they have a problem with it because they were not involved in the process. And I'm sure commissioners would understand why that could be problematic. Just because you want to build something doesn't mean that everybody is in favor of it. So nonetheless, I'm here to offer support for it. I think it's a wonderful project, and I see that it's on the consent agenda, but I want the members of my community to know here before this Board of Commissioners that we are really excited to be expanding our housing stock in the Broad River District.
Yeah, no,
Thank you.
I appreciate you speaking, Mr. Juarez,
Indeed.
and thank you for coming. Are there any other members of the public that would like an item removed from the consent agenda or to, yes, sir? Would you please come to the podium? Thank you.
Good afternoon, Council, Planning Commission. My name is Dr. Cornell Clark. I'm a board-certified family physician. I have a medical office at 1417 Gregg Street, Bull Street District Family Practice. And I'm new here. This month I'll only be here a year. I moved here from Las Vegas, Nevada. But my first question is just general, because I see the signs and I really don't know everything about it. Does this, and I've read newspaper articles about how high buildings could be. Does all of this involve aesthetics in terms of how tall buildings can be in terms of these new developments?
Yes, sir. So within each zoning, there are specific guidelines that outline, setbacks, heights, a whole list of different conditions and criteria to develop around.
That's all. I just wanted in
Okay.
general. Yeah, you don't have to go into
Sure.
detail.
No, these are great questions. I'm glad you're here.
Also, I've noticed, because I live downtown, I walk around, there are a lot of old boarded up buildings that are quite functional in terms of the brick. Is there federal funding available to rehab some of these within this zoning development? I can think of a great building right now on Bull Street next to that Y, that three-story brick building between Taylor and Hampton. So I see a lot of buildings like that in this area. So are they going to be rehabbing buildings and getting federal funding?
There are
things like-
federal programs. It just, takes a little while to work through and navigate the process to get access to that.
Okay. All right. Thank you, Mr. Cohen.
Yeah, very welcome. All right. Is there anyone from the public that has any comments or would like one of these items removed specific to the consent agenda? All right. I will consider a motion for the consent agenda and the minutes from April.
Mr. Chair, I move that we approve the minutes from April 10, 2025, and the items on the consent agenda.
Got a motion? Can I get a second?
Second.
All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? The ayes have it. Motion passes. Move to the regular agenda, please. We will use the following outline for the regular agenda items. The administrator will introduce the case. Applicants will have 10 minutes to make a presentation. The Planning Commission may then ask questions. The public comment period will be open to those present, and then we'll close the public comment period. Applicants will have 5 minutes to respond to the public comments. Planning Commission may ask additional questions of the applicant, and then deliberation and action by the Planning Commission will occur. All right.
Okay, the first item on the regular agenda is a request for a recommendation to rezone the property from, at 5003 Red Street, tax map number 11701-1003, from Neighborhood Activity Center Corridor District in the North Main Corridor Design Overlay to Community Activity Center / Corridor District in the North Main Corridor Design Overlay District. Just briefly, the staff recommendation on this one is denial. As you can see in our packet, basically staff has found that the proposed zoning is not consistent with the master plan for the villages of North Columbia and its recommendations for this area. And, while this property is adjacent to CAC zoning, that property does face Fairfield Road versus North Main and Red Street like this property does. And, but with that said, I believe the applicant is present and she can present her request.
Thank you. Would you like to speak? Yes. Thank you.
Hello, everyone. My name is Renita Caesar. I own the property at 5003 Red Street. I purchased this property from the city. I had to put in a bid for the property and I had to put down a non-refundable deposit. So prior to putting that deposit down, I went to the zoning office. I asked them, what could I use this property for? I explained to them and I showed them my plan, what I was going to do with the property. Because originally, I was looking at a smaller property in front of it. I was given the information by an employee that this property behind it is larger, you get more land, and you get more room, and it's been on sale for a while, so you'll probably get a good deal. So we did the research, and I said, well, can I do my business? My business is a rim and tire shop. He said, yes, that would be a perfect place. You have enough room for garages and everything. So I put the bid in. The bid went in front of the city in September. It was approved. The bid went in front of the committee again in October. It was approved. I was allowed to purchase the building the end of October. I purchased the building. I had to write down prior to purchasing what I was going to use the building for. I wrote a detailed list of what I was going to use the building for, and was it approved for that area? I was told yes. So I purchased the building. I had to get garages in order to install the rim and tires. So I submit a request to the permit department to put two-car garages in the rear so I can install the rims and tires. That was also approved by the permit department so I could go ahead and install the garages, which I did. When I went to get my business license, I was told to wait until February because that's when the new license come out. So I put my application in. They told me to date it till February, so I dated it till February. I get a call beginning of February stating, you can sell the tires, you just can't install them. Do you still want the permit? And I explained to them, I run a daycare across the street. It's been open 4 years. I pride myself in providing great customer service. I don't want to install anything that I can't warranty or I can't service. So I requested at that time, could I get a special use permit just to install rims and tires? I don't want to fix any vehicles. I don't want to paint any vehicles. I don't even want to put oil in any vehicles. All I want to do is give my customers a choice, because if I place the tires on their vehicle and they don't fit, at least they can come back in and choose another set. If I place it, it doesn't cost them any extra for me to put them on and take them off, as opposed to if they were to go to somebody else to put them on and they didn't fit, then they would be out of their money. I can't take them back. I just want to provide great customer service, safe customer service, and I want to provide the service that I was initially told that I could do at that particular location. I don't want to change the world. I just want to make a difference. And I do want to provide customer service. And that's why I'm petitioning the board to give me a special use permit just to install rims and tires, or change it from NAC to CAC so that I can install rims and tires. I have petitioned my community and I have received their support. The Belmont community, the college community, and the local schools in my area. I got 400 signatures from a petition, and I also had a letter sent in from the committee and the Belmont community that approved, they okayed, and they're fine with me in that system. Adjacent to me, next door to me, are several different car services, painting and body. I even got their permission or their approval, because my business doesn't harm theirs, or it doesn't, all I'm doing is putting on tires, so it doesn't hurt their business at all. And they signed my petition also. So that is my request here today, is to get it changed from NAC to CAC, just so I can put on my rims and tires, or allow me to have a special use permit just to put on my product. That's my request. Any questions?
Thank you. Do any commission members have any questions for the applicant?
I have one. Did the city offer a special use permit as an option?
They said they can't do it. I had to come to this committee in order to get a special use permit. And I have several businesses. I have several daycares. I have one in Pillion, I have one on North Main, I have one in North Carolina. So I'm used to going to the zoning before I even do anything, or before I purchase any property. I didn't even know this property was for sale. It was a mortuary. And he said, there's nobody buying it. You might get a good deal on it. Try it, it's larger. I wasn't looking into buying a mortuary. I was looking into buying a building that was directly on North Main Street. This one was down in the cut, but it gave me acreage, plus it gave me a larger building and a place to put a garage. So that was suggested by someone that worked in the zoning department. I didn't even have any clue that building was for sale. It wasn't even a sign up for sale.
I have a question for staff real quick. Is there a special use permit or special exception that would be Board of Zoning Appeals? Or would that be here?
Right. A special exception is the Board of Zoning Appeals. However, this is not a use category that is allowed as special exception in the NAC district.
That was my next question.
Yeah.
Okay.
Another question for staff. The petition that Ms. Caesar refers to, I've seen the letter that you referred to from the Belmont community. Have you seen the petition? Is that on record?
I've not seen the petition.
I'm sorry I was late because I The rain stopped the track meet today for my granddaughter, and was the last track meet, but I do have a copy of all the petitions in the car. So I can come back up and bring those petitions. It was 400 signatures.
It may not be necessary
Okay.
at this hearing. You know, you still have to go to council.
That's fine.
Assuming we approve, and I certainly would recommend you provide that to whomever at that point, but you may not need it here.
And I'd just like to mention that regardless of recommendation, this would continue to city council. Regardless of recommendation, whether planning commission recommends approval or denial, this continues to council if the applicant wishes.
Right, that's what I was referring to, correct.
Question for staff. Just looking at the two different districts, I'm noticing that a lot of the uses overlap. So, what's, I guess, the highlights of what's included in CAC that wouldn't be in NAC that this would allow? Just because, I'm looking at it, and a lot of things are in both districts.
Sure. So, yeah, some highlights, and you're right, there are lots of overlaps. The CAC does not permit certain kinds of residential that the NAC does. So for example, single-family townhomes and duplexes. But it does permit, and I can run through a few things, but, in terms of the automotive uses, it does permit uses that are not allowed in NAC. And so one is the personal vehicle repair and maintenance that Ms. Caesar would like. Also a car wash, self-service stores, so mini warehousing, hotel or motel, let's see, kennel, contractor's office, by special exception, a rooming house or boarding house, a few other uses.
So is CAC intended for just like a higher density area?
It does. It does permit a height up to 75 feet. And again, it is intended to be, so NAC is Neighborhood Activity Center, CAC is Community Activity Center, so it's intended to draw from a bigger area. And so, you may notice on Fairfield Road, there is an area that is zoned CAC. There's also a shopping center there, for example. NAC does actually restrict retail uses, so if you want to have a retail use that's over 10,000 square feet, you would have to get a special exception to exceed that size. So it's intended to be kind of a smaller scale, mixed use district.
Thank you.
Does the work she's referring to not qualify under a service station?
We addressed that at the Board of Zoning Appeals, but briefly, the definition in the zoning ordinance classifies the installation of wheels and tires as that classification, so the personal vehicle repair and maintenance. So,
Okay.
yeah.
And she cannot go to BOZA for that as a variance,
Correct. No, there was a request for an appeal,
right?
and so, the zoning's determination was upheld. Yeah. And so, this is an option that Ms. Caesar has to perhaps allow the use. Yeah.
He keeps saying repair and maintenance. I'm not repairing anything. And then when it says on the NAC, it does say, I'm not repairing it. It also says lease. So if I lease the tires, would that be an option? Because it does say lease.
I think it's just,
If I had a business that leased tires, would that be an option? Because I'm not repairing anything. I'm not fixing a flat. I'm not doing any of that.
It's the installation that makes it fall into that category per our zoning ordinance, the UDO.
okay. Any commission members have any other questions for the applicant? Thank you.
Thank you. I appreciate your time.
Are there any members of the public that would like to speak in favor or opposition to this? I mean, I would put out, I'm kind of inclined to, I don't want to hold you up, but maybe just for recommendation to defer this just to get a little more clarity. And if you have these petitions, unless I'm overruled and somebody wants to put a motion on the table, I mean, if there's any discussion. But seeing none, I will take a motion.
The use category seems pretty nuanced in this case. But of course, when you change zoning, you allow other uses that are more intense, regardless of what Ms. Caesar is going to be doing now. That's my only concern. And her having support from the community, although we haven't seen the petition, this does have to go to council, and the council will probably consider that as well. But
Mr. Chair,
I'm leaning toward approving it.
If you all, want to give her time to go get that, if that would help you all make the decision, we could certainly do that.
Okay. Can we have a motion to just delay the motion on this particular item and then allow the applicant to come back?
You mean delay it just for today?
For this particular session?
Sure. I'll make a motion that we defer this temporarily just today to give you time to, that's what we're talking about, yes. But that hasn't been approved yet, but I'm making that motion. So
All right, we have a motion.
I don't know if it was a very good motion.
Second.
All right, all those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All right, if you can get that, we'll revisit this. Thank you. Move to the next item on the agenda.
Okay, the next item on the agenda is a text amendment. Text Amendment 2025-009, and it is a request for a recommendation to amend the Unified Development Ordinance. I won't read all the parts of it, but to basically to add a pickup window as an accessory use, as a separate category. So, and so basically this amendment is proposed in response to a project request that revealed a use which is distinct from drive-through windows. Basically, to be regulated differently as a pickup window, where the order is placed in advance through the internet or phone and is picked up at a window by a vehicle or pedestrian. And so these uses do not employ order kiosks with speakers or lighted menu boxes and do not facilitate the same level of vehicular idling as a drive-through. So would be more appropriate in locations where drive-through windows are currently not permitted. And so very specifically, there is the classification of pickup window and pedestrian pickup window, and there's associated conditions for those two different uses. And those would be permitted in certain districts as an accessory to a use. And just as a reminder, currently we do have the drive-through facility, and that is also subdivided between essentially personal services and retail uses. So think about pharmacies and banks that sometimes have drive-throughs, and then all other categories which could include restaurants, for example, and coffee shops, that kind of thing.
I found this interesting. I didn't even realize this wasn't an allowable use.
Well, currently it is considered to be a drive-through.
Yeah. I think this is good. Are there any questions or comments from commission members?
Real quick, is it my understanding that any drive-through in Columbia, the city needs to go through site plan approval?
Not, I mean.
As a
we always
drive-through-
review the site plan, but right, a drive-through is reviewed and it does have to meet standards for locations.
Even if it met standards preliminary, I guess it's still got to go through the site plan approval for a drive-through.
So it's in most cases, it's a conditional use. So we as staff will review the site plan. If the development is large enough, then we would have to do a site plan review at the planning commission. There are, I believe, in 2 districts, the drive-through is a special exception in addition to having those conditions. The conditions generally have to do with spacing from residential properties, et cetera.
And this, I guess, is kind of establishing the difference.
Right. So if there's not again, we're all familiar with fast food restaurants and the order box and, the noise, lights and fumes, et cetera, that are associated.
Right, I feel like a lot of things are starting to get more of that casual pickup versus the menu board box too, so. Cool, thank you for the clarification.
I see in point A, it says speaker systems are prohibited. So wouldn't that go against banks and pharmacies that already use those speaker systems within pickup?
So they would be classified as a drive-through, and so they would just need to meet the conditions of that drive-through versus a pickup window. So this would be a scenario where, there's a window on the side of the building, and you've already made your order. You're just there to drive out there and pick it up.
Property not for this, that frankly is developed, the old church, that's now multi-family. It's got nice commercial, Starbucks, it has a drive-through, that's also an AC. Is that in play? Is it when the city zoning that in the county that both shows, so it doesn't have, I couldn't tell if you did that.
I'm vaguely familiar with the time frame for that development. I think it started prior to our UDO and the current requirements. I could be wrong about that, but we can look into that. I'm fairly positive it was prior to the current UDO.
Are there any further questions? Are there any members of the public that want to speak for this application? All right, we'll take a motion.
Mr. Chair, I make a motion that we approve the request to amend the zoning map for the property for TA 2025009, as it meets the decisions and standards outlined in section 17-2.5 in the Unified Development Ordinance.
Thank you. We've got a motion. Can I get a second?
Second.
All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes. To the next one. Oh. Sure. Do we want to go back to the first one? Okay.
Right, yeah, we were just going to suggest.
All right. Ms. Caesar, do you have that list? Thank you.
I also have the business card for the guy that told me to purchase the property and that it was zoned for that. I still have his business card. This is the person I talked to. I also have the permit that they allowed me to do the sheds. And these are signatures right here. And these right here are the ones for the surrounding businesses. I had them on a separate one. And this right here is also the letter from the community. on this one. And this right here is the letter from the city that allowed me to purchase the building, and the letter that they approved it for me to purchase it for that reason. Yes. Also, I have a food trailer and an icy trailer. This time I got it in writing that I can put those on my property so that it won't change when I decide to put them on there. So they did give it to me in writing.
Thank you.
Andrew, did y'all happen to talk to whatever gentleman she spoke to that gave approval? Yeah.
I believe there was a real estate transaction, but, you know, that of course is separate from the zoning division. I think this transaction happened prior to when I was in zoning. We did issue a permit. We did issue it for a shed with no declared use.
My real estate agent, her name was Ms. Nash for the city. And this person right here was from the business license office that told me that it was fine for me to put that business there. So I have his card, because I went down there 3 times prior to put,
It was zoned NAC when you purchased it.
he said that was fine. I have copies of the papers that he gave me and that he circled that it was okay to put it there, because I didn't even know, the building didn't even have a for sale sign on it. I didn't even know it was for sale. I didn't even know it was owned by the city. I just saw it was a funeral home. I didn't even know if it was still running, because I'm not from here, I'm from North Carolina. So I had no clue until he pointed it out to my attention, and I told him what I was gonna do with that location. And he said this would be a better location, and he gave me his business card.
Not dismissing that at all, but this use seems so nuanced that it could have just been an honest mistake. I mean, I understand what you're saying, and you should be able to rely on advice you're given, but I'm not sure I would have known the difference in the uses, but just a comment.
Ms. Caesar, just a quick question. If this change does not get approved, what are you going to do on the property?
I don't have anything to do on the property. I own 3 daycares. I don't want to open another daycare. So that was the thing was, my son worked at the rim and tire shop on 2 Notch that closed down. That's the business he's been in for 10 years. So I purchased their inventory. So I have rims and tires that are sitting in storage that I've lost. My open date was February, because that was tax time. So I've lost income and revenue not been able to open in February. So I've been paying and not been able to use the building at all. So I don't have anything else to put in there.
Just as a follow-up, just want to get this for the record. If this does get approved, are you okay with not being able to have put a single-family home on there?
Yes,
Because you would lose that ability.
yes.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Chair, just based on the level of support that she's displayed today, and again, just looking at the use list of NAC and CAC, you can put a gas station on both. You can put vehicle equipment sales and rentals on both. A lot of it just seems to overlap, and I just feel like if you don't have a problem with a gas station, you probably don't have a problem with putting a tire repair shop there. So, I'm leaning towards a recommendation on this one.
I would agree with both of y'all. It is nuanced, for sure. And I could see someone in the conversation potentially mistaking the level of detail in that. Thank you for getting those signatures.
Thank you.
Are there any other questions or comments from commissioners? All right. Thank you.
Thank you, I appreciate it.
Are there any other members of the public that would like to speak in reference to this applicant? All right. We'll take a motion.
I move that we recommend the approval of the request to amend the zoning map for the property on 5003 Rhett Street from NAC to CAC as it meets the decision standard outlined in section 17.2.5C in the Unified Development Ordinance, because it would allow the subject property to be put to a reasonably viable economic use.
Thank you. We have a motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
I have a motion and a second. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes. All right. We will go to regular agenda item number 3.
All right. Okay, so we are moving on to the comprehensive plan amendment case summary for the Downtown Columbia Strategic Plan. You all are familiar with this, but it is the first time that it's officially been on your agenda. So we're just going to kind of quickly, highlight some of the aspects of the plan and the process. This process was started in early 2024. Planning staff worked with a consultant team to discern a refreshed vision for the quality of the built environment downtown. And part of this review, the team examined many of the changes that occurred throughout the downtown in the last 25 years, really, because the last time the city center planning process was done was 1998, 99, and then the Innovista area was back in 2007 and 2009 for those planning guidelines. So one of the primary goals of this was not only to develop a strategic plan, but also a new set of guidelines for this geographic area. So let's see. This is the, This is the area, sorry, I just wanted to show you the boundaries. And of course, the boundaries are based on the former city center design district and the Innovista district. So it was like, this yellow line represents those two areas, all as one geography. And that was the study area for the planning process. And you can see there's a lot of different land uses and different zonings within that area. Let's see. So a few things to point out about the planning effort. It was intended to create a community-driven vision for the public character of downtown, to establish priorities for public policy and public investment, to protect the unique character through the development of the plan and the guidelines, and also to form the basis for the new guidelines that were going to be formed to help shape great public spaces downtown. And just as a little overview of some of the public input, we had some really great public engagement during this process. We had stakeholder roundtables, mobile workshops where we just like popped up different places to get engagement. There was an online survey. We had several public open houses, and overall we heard from over 1,100 folks about this plan. And it was a really good process. The consultants made it really fun. I think people really enjoyed it. I know some of you participated, and we do appreciate that. Okay, so about the plan, this is just basically looking at what the consultants did was take all the information that they heard from stakeholders and the public and tried to kind of come up with some big themes so they could really make some specific recommendations. So that turned into 6 big ideas. So that's kind of the plan document, and if you certainly look through that, it has these ideas outlined. They tackle core issues and opportunities highlighted by the community, from downtown's lack of walkable connections to its overly wide streets, to an opportunity of improved programming of public spaces. And each idea is supported by data and trends from peer cities and has specific comments and observations. And also a prioritization section within the plan talks about key action items that would be required in order to implement the big ideas. So just to get through those, again, pretty quickly, the first idea was to create 2 trail loops through downtown. This is a little map that shows what those could look like, the Vista Loop and the Capitol Loop. And these were just, again, based on a lot of the feedback I got about needing better connectivity downtown to things that people, destinations that already exist downtown, and just trying to make better connections and clearer paths to those things and safer connections. Refresh, to improve downtown's tree canopy and green spaces to foster a more comfortable and resilient urban district. When we looked at some of the public input responses on the survey and what we heard from people in the public, more trees and tree canopy came up over and over again. It was one of the top concerns that public had, and folks really did want to see an improvement in the tree canopy. So connect, this is really about safety at intersections, just recognizing that we have a lot of opportunities to improve safety in this, and we don't have to wait for huge streetscape improvements. This recommendation was really based on sort of more surgical and quick and not as expensive safety things that could be done in the short term to make intersections safer, before we get to some of the bigger projects that might be, bigger infrastructure projects. And then reclaiming, right-sizing excess right-of-way at downtown streets for pedestrian and cyclist space. Again, this was just a recommendation that was based on the great opportunity we have in Columbia with our wide streets and wide rights-of-way. There is room for multimodal city, and just trying to kind of better balance that between cars and parking and also cycle facilities and wider sidewalks and trees. So that was, and this diagram was really interesting. The blue, it's hard to see, I know at this scale, but it looks at the actual, the width of the roads in terms of, how many cars are actually on them in the blue, and then the red is the design of how many cars could be accommodated. So the volume is much lower in most cases than what the road could, the capacity really is. So there is room to provide more multimodal facilities without actually changing the level of service for a lot of these roads. And then for Champion, this was really just about providing dedicated stewardship of downtown's public spaces. Again, recognizing that as the capital of South Carolina and as a city with universities, there are a lot of partners that go into these efforts, and trying to sort of organize that in a way that everybody contributes to a common goal. And then, of course, Streamline is the adopt user and business-friendly design guidelines to protect downtown's long-term economic competitiveness and real estate value. And we'll hear more about that in a minute, but that was the sixth big idea. So that's the plan in a nutshell. And so as you all know, when we do planning processes like these area plans, we do go through the Planning Commission for recommendation. If it has to do with an overlay for either design or historic, we go to the DDRC also for recommendation, and then these will go to council and we'll ask for an adoption. And then it becomes an amendment to the comprehensive plan, and then it becomes a policy document. So this part of it is not regulatory, but it is a document that will help guide, potentially for infrastructure improvements, amendments to local ordinances where that's relevant, or even potentially funding decisions. So staff recommends adoption, and so we would recommend that the Planning Commission recommend to the council adoption of this as an amendment to the comprehensive plan.
I'd like to just comment. I mean, a lot of staff put a lot of time into this, and it was also really encouraging just to see the level of engagement and participation from the public. And this is kind of one of those things I think has been long awaited, and it's going to be a really good thing, and appreciate everybody's efforts. So,
Thank you.
yeah. Well, I guess we can take a motion. I skipped this step, I'm sorry. Are there any members of the public that would like to speak? regarding this application?
Just leave this up here.
All right,
Mr. Chair, I'd like to make a motion that we approve NAC Plan dash 2025-0001, Downtown Columbia Strategic Plan, for the adoption of the Downtown Columbia Strategic Plan as an addendum to the City of Columbia's comprehensive plan.
I like that. Got a motion, can we get a second?
Second.
All right, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes. Thank you.
Great, thank you. So while we're on that topic, we're going to move to the next couple of cases. Let's see if I can get there. Okay, so the plan, as you know, is part of this process. The second part is the actual design guideline document and overlay. So this is and as you know, your case summary is put these together, but it is kind of two separate motions. It just makes sense to talk about them as one overlay district. So the zoning map amendment is looking at, creating this new overlay, which is primarily the same as sorry, I'm trying to click. Okay. Primarily the same as the city center and the Innovista areas combined, but we did want to point out there is a small change to that boundary, and that's basically just based on the fact that the city center design overlay did include those properties, the Elmwood and Randolph cemeteries that are north of 126 just didn't really make sense. Those are also protected as landmarks, and so we just kind of took that piece out. Otherwise, the boundaries are exactly the same as the former city center design district overlay and the Innovista overlay. So just kind of wanted to point out that. Otherwise, everything is consistently the same. Okay, so the design guidelines, again, were based on the plan and the information that came out of that plan, as well as best practices. There are several zoning districts, 15 base zoning districts within this geographic area. There are 8 types of overlay districts, including some historic preservation overlays, floodway overlays. And so just to be clear, all of the underlying zoning and other overlay districts will remain the same. The only thing that is actually changing here is getting rid of the city center overlay and the Innovista overlay, and then replacing that with what is going to be called the Downtown Columbia Overlay District. So it's basically just a new urban design overlay that will apply to these properties. Oops. Okay. So, like we said about the 6 ideas, won't go over those again, but number 6 was the streamline. So this was really about developing a new set of design guidelines to apply to this area. There were several objectives at the beginning of this process to emphasize the development's relationship with the public realm. That was definitely a directive, and something that we've learned from a lot of our guidelines that we've been using for many, many years is really focusing on that important part of where development and buildings meet the street, and that's where people are, that's where people walk, and so that's really the critical place. So they're scaling back a little bit on a lot of the architectural detailing and really focusing in on where buildings address the public realm. So prioritizing design and promoting design excellence in order to enhance existing and future character of downtown's many neighborhood districts, to provide flexibility and generate a variety of potential design solutions and outcomes. And again, being less prescriptive about something has to be this way or something has to be that way, but really based on an overall intent and providing multiple ways for a development to meet that intent. To improve communication and participation among the development community, city staff, elected appointed officials, and the public, and express and convey the interests of the community through well-written, clearly understood development and design guidelines. And so you all had access to this document. We were very pleased with, it is clear, it's got some great illustrations, and so we think it'll be a very user-friendly document for developers to use. So just to quickly go through the way that the guidelines are set up, and I'll just quickly go through these slides. There's 4 primary sections in the guidelines after the introduction. So it's based on, there's a site planning section, which includes open space, parking facilities, fences, and walls. Then there's a section on the private realm, which includes development frontages. There is a small section on building design, and again, one of the differences here is that it talks about intent, and then it provides different ways that a development might meet that intent. So there is definitely some flexibility built in there. And pedestrian entry, which of course is a very important part of urban design and how buildings address the public realm. And then the public realm is the next section, and that is, talks about the different zones within the pedestrian realm, the sidewalk zone, frontages against the building, enhancement zone, which is kind of more where you might see public amenities like streetlights, trees, parking meters, that sort of thing. And then another zone that could be parking, it's the parking or enhancement zone. So again, flexibility in each one of these zones, but it lays out what the intent is and also suggests different widths based on the existing conditions and what a building's use is going to be on what that distance might be to really try to make sure there's room to provide that space for pedestrians. And then it also provides some information about different streetscape elements and where they should be placed, and also some information about street trees. Again, since we heard so much about that, that was a really important component for our public streets. And then signage. There isn't, I mean, a lot of these are similar to the current sign guidelines that we have. The ones in City Center and Innovista, some of them are quite good and work very well, so those have been carried forward. And then some adjustments have been made for some of the sign guidelines that maybe were a little trickier to administer. So I guess that's it for the actual design guidelines and overlay portion. So that's the zoning map amendment. So basically what that would do, again, would be create this overlay district, and then these guidelines would apply to that geographic area through this zoning change. So that's kind of the first request. There are two motions, so if you want, we can just keep talking through the text amendment, or we can do that separately. It will be two separate motions, one way or the other. Do you have any questions about the guidelines or the overlay? Oops.
Just clarifying, so the City Center District and the Vista District will just cease to exist, and it'll all be under,
That's right.
yeah, okay. You can keep going if you'd like.
Okay.
Yeah, thank you.
Yep. So the text amendment, again, these are just amendments to the Unified Development Ordinance that, I mean, the obvious stuff is just everywhere that City Center and Innovista are mentioned, that has to be updated to this new overlay. There are a few things that, content things that we just wanted to summarize, and all of these are outlined in your packets, redlined exactly how they will be in the new ordinance, in the adjustments to the ordinance. But basically, it removes and replaces references to the Innovista and City Center districts. It establishes clear thresholds for DDRC review that better reflect project impact. So, and just to summarize that, some of our current districts have monetary thresholds, and so we're moving away from that and the thresholds, and the threshold is basically a minor application, which would just be reviewed by staff, versus a major application that would come to the DDRC. So the thresholds are, what is that trigger? And these are really based on the impact that a development is likely to have on the public realm. So it might be, it's 150 feet of street frontage, or 26 residential units or more, a 50-foot tall building or more, or 25,000 gross square feet of total building. So if it meets any of those thresholds, that would turn it into a major application or classify it as a major application, which would go to the DDRC. So we did come up with new thresholds. There was a couple of other things that were recommended in the planning process, and that was to modify some of the auto-related uses within this overlay. And that was, again, just to try to emphasize the pedestrian orientation of downtown, not saying they can't be there, but just, to make sure we don't have like too many, blocks and blocks of different auto-related uses in a row. So there are some recommendations for distance requirements between auto-related uses. For example, vehicle sales and service should not be permitted within 1,000 feet of another business in that same category. So just putting a little bit of space between those types of uses. And that's really just in a nutshell. Do y'all have any questions about that?
I'm hoping this helps alleviate some concerns when the site plans come to us for approval, that there's not another backstop if people are nervous about the use. So,
Perhaps it will.
yeah, I think that'd be a good thing. Any commission members have any other questions? Thank you. Is there anyone from the public that would like to speak regarding this application? Seeing none, we can take a motion. I guess it's two motions. Yep. Thank you.
Mr. Chair, I move that we recommend approval of the request to amend the zoning map to Downtown Columbia Overlay District and adopt the Downtown Columbia Design Guidelines as it meets the decision standards outlined in Section 17-2.5 in the Unified Development Ordinance.
Is that enough clarification?
I think so.
All right. Thank you. Got a motion? You get a second?
Second.
All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion passes. Thank you. Thank you again for all your work on that.
Yeah, thank you all.
And
then
we
the
need a
text
second
amendment.
motion as well?
One more motion.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I'm ready.
I thought you got them both, sorry.
Mr. Chair, I move that we approve text amendment ZMA 2025-0010 Downtown Columbia Design Overlay District.
It's TA. or-
Sorry, okay.
yeah, Or
Mr.
ZTA.
Chair, I move
Text
that
amendment. Yes,
that we
sir.
approve TA 2025-0010
Yes, sir.
Downtown Columbia Design Overlay District.
I'm good. Got a motion? Can we get a second?
Second.
All right. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion passes. All right.
Thank you.
I was waiting for you to read all that. I was waiting for you to read all that.
That's what I was looking at the car. We turned our mic on at the same time, and that's why I started shaking my head, like, yeah, you got this.
All right. So on to agenda item 6.
That's going to bring us to the site plan, S-Plan -2025-0007. And this application is at the 2300 through 2318 Divine Street and 620 Height Street. This project entails the construction of a 4-story multifamily residential building on 1.3 acres at the southeast corner of Divine Street and Height Street. The proposed development will contain 55 units, amenity space, and parking. The required number of off-street parking spaces is 0, whereas the applicant is providing 76 in the surface parking lot and will be located directly behind the building. The applicant has worked with staff regarding landscape requirements, whereas alternative compliance has been granted for the transitional buffer yard. And I believe the applicant is present and can explain their case further.
All right, thank you. The applicant like to speak toward the application?
Hi, guys. I'm Teresa Hodge with Estates Properties, and I don't really have a presentation. We've submitted it all with the application, but basically it's a 55-unit multifamily building we want to put on Divine Street. We already have 6 properties on Divine Street that we've developed and we currently manage. So I think the character of what we do and our integrity and the quality of our product is proven. I have gotten a letter from the Divine Street Association where they say as much, so if we need to, I could read that letter out loud, but we're just here. We think we've met all the zoning requirements that's allowed, and would love to hear your comments or questions if you have any.
Thank you. Any commission members have any questions of the applicant?
Will you guys be taking over the land from the owner or just managing the proposed apartment complex?
No, we will be purchasing the land, yeah, and we'll own it.
How does this parking ratio compare to the ones down the street?
It's about 1.35 per unit, and we audited all of our properties, which we have several in Divine. We have a huge project in West Columbia with 245 units, and we have several that we've sold in Columbia. And whenever we audited that, our management says, about a 1.2 to 1.3 is what we park typically. So we think it very much meets that and will be sufficient because, we're going to manage it, so it behooves us to provide the parking that's needed for the units.
What's your primary clientele?
It's a mix of grad student to empty nester, honestly. It's a wide range, good income. We don't service students or allow student housing. That's the only thing we don't do.
This is all rental?
It's all rental, market rate, yes.
Any other questions?
Has this been to DDRC yet?
It has not. I don't think it was a requirement, the DDRC.
It's not in a design
not
district,
in an
not
overlay.
required.
Okay.
This is in similar keeping with what you did down the street.
It is, yes, very much. Divine District, Trolley, those two projects right there, exactly.
Any questions?
Yeah, I think I like the parking coming off of Divine, or Height, not Divine. I think the front, this is, I work right across the street, so this is a good addition to Divine Street.
Okay, thank you. We think it will be, they've all done well, and you all know that good development integrates multifamily as a transition from commercial to residential, which is exactly what this is doing. It's what the Divine District did as well, so we think it'll be a good match, good fit.
Thank you.
Okay.
Are there any members of the public that would like to speak regarding the application? Yes, ma'am.
Good afternoon. I'm Judy Anderson, and I'm here in the capacity as the Chair of the Zoning and Code Enforcement for the Shandon Neighborhood Council. And I'm also the past president of the Shandon Neighborhood Council. I'm here in that capacity, not in my personal capacity. I have some concerns about the process that's been followed about this development. I first heard about this process yesterday, about midday, when one of the council members sent me an email with a text from his sister who'd seen in the paper that this was happening in our neighborhood. I was not in town, and last night, about 10 o'clock, I got in the car and I went down there and I looked for the signs that are posted. Now, I understand sometimes you don't post signs, but if you're trying to let people know about things, you have to find a way to let them know. And normally, there is a green sign that is posted. I went back again this morning at 7 o'clock to make sure that I had not missed the signs. There are no signs posted. And I understand, and this is a wonderful practice in that when they do post the signs, they take a picture so they can show the signs have been posted. But the old adage is, if you expect something, you have to inspect it. So just putting a sign out one time does not mean that it's going to be there all the time. You have to go back and check on it as you do in anything else. So that is one of my concerns. Another concern, since part of the process is to make sure that the public knows about things and has an opportunity to talk to them about them, that, again, there's a good system of emails. However, all of our names for the Shandon neighborhood have been taken off of that email. Don't know how that happened. So that's another issue. And then finally, traditionally, or at least in the past, when developments have been going on, at least in our neighborhood, the developers have come to the council and worked with us. We have heard nothing about this until last night. So what I am asking is that you defer this until some of these steps can be done and we can find out what really is happening in our neighborhood. Thank you. By the way, thank all of you for your service.
Thank you. Would the applicant like to address the comments? Hold on one moment, please.
I can appreciate that, and thank you for speaking. We typically meet with neighborhood communities whenever we are asking for a variance for something that's not allowed. So when we did with the Divine District neighborhood, we had to create a PUD for that, and we met with the Old Shandon group there because it wasn't necessarily allowed what we were doing at the time. However, this particular community is zoned for the specific product that we're putting on there. It's a perfect fit, and we also have the track record on Divine Street. You know, just having said that, that's the reason why we didn't call a meeting. We've talked to adjacent landowners. The landowner across the street on Height Street was welcoming some owners in Terrace Way, as well as we have the letter from the Divine Street Association, and I noticed the support from 5 Points with Steve Cook in the recent article. So that's the only reason there wasn't specific meetings called, because we are meeting the intent of the ordinance and the zoning that's allowed.
Thank you. All right. Yes, sir.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you. My name is David Lonis. I am also a member of the Shandon Neighborhood Council. I am here in my private capacity. And as I may be the last speaker for the day, I'll endeavor to be efficient. So I appreciate everything that you all do as commission members. Your service is essential, and as I've been sitting here today, I have seen your engagement with the public. I really appreciate what you're doing and how you're doing it. At the end of the day, we all want the same thing. We want, good safety, and we want public health and convenience, and we want prosperity. I do have concerns about this specific development, and they're part of a concern that I have about a broader trend in just traffic management. I think we all have seen over the last 20 years as we've lived in Columbia and Lexington and Irmo and different places, traffic grows and grows and it becomes unpleasant. I lived in Greenville for a long time and it's bad up there and it's just not well governed. This development in particular is adding 70 new approximately parking spots, and they're all egressing out onto Height Street. And if you look at the map, you can see you've got one ingress and one egress. There's no light there at that intersection. There's no real structure for managing on Blossom Street if they go the Blossom Street side other than stop signs. And on the site plan, it just says that traffic engineering recommends approval. There's no documentation, there's no traffic study, there's no broader set of information. And going with what my colleague has said about just the perceived lack of transparency to the process from our point of view, and the definite impact it will have on our neighborhood to have traffic grow in an unmanaged way or an insufficiently managed way. I do have concerns about this site plan as submitted, and I would ask that you defer until a later time so that we can look into some of these issues more carefully. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Do any commission member? Oh, yes, sir.
Hello, my name is Mike Smith, and I came here actually for the City Center presentation. We have a building on Bull Street, and we're excited about what you guys are doing. But I was looking at the parking lot for this site, and I was wondering, are you making provisions for electric vehicles for the residents to charge? And how do you accommodate as that changes over time?
Yes, thank you.
So if I could address the gentleman before that first. We did have a traffic study done by SRS Engineering, Mike Ridgway. That was completed. He saw minimal impact based on the traffic flows and all that study, and that's what he does for a living. So we've also added approximately 225 units to Divine Street already, and it hasn't greatly impacted the traffic on Divine Street. So we feel comfortable with what we're adding and the positive impact that we'll have on Divine versus the negative. There's Blossom and there's Divine Street. So I think they have several ways to go, and it will be fine based on the expert Mike Ridgway. Regarding the EV charging stations, we are considering putting some in. We don't have any in our other properties. It does get asked about sometimes, so we just have to make sure the electrical load will allow it and put the hardware and infrastructure in there. So.
Question, is Height Street where, Height at Blossom, is that where the stop signs are? The 3 or 4 way stop signs?
There's a stop sign, yes.
But not both ways, right?
No.
Okay. I go at Blossom a lot, but I know there's that one intersection where there's a 4-way stop.
I think it's just at Divine at the top and bottom of, Height, at the top and bottom of Height where the stop signs exist.
I know turning left on Blossom out of any road in that area can be tricky.
Sure.
You know, because there's cars always parked parallel.
Right.
You know. But Mike Ridgway is reputable. I understand he's looking at intersections and, 76 parking spaces it's not insignificant, but it's not major, in my opinion.
Right. Appreciate it.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Are there any other members of the public that would like to speak regarding this application? Any commission members have any other questions or comments?
I got a question for staff. Is there a Divine Street District, improvement that they're going to do that I've heard, or is that not happening?
The DOT is looking at some improvements to Divine Street. They just had, I think, their first meeting about a month ago, maybe. So they're just getting started on looking at the options for that.
I've got another question for staff. If we defer this project, I'm not sure what to gain, honestly. As Ms. Hodges pointed out, the property is zoned for this use, and they've met the requirements. And maybe the members of the public can explain what they expect to gain by a deferral. I'm not real sure that there's anything to gain. It's just my opinion.
I think the other question I had too was, in looking through, there's no special provisions being made to accommodate this project?
No, the only, they did go through alternative compliance with regards to a buffer yard requirement based upon the constraints of the property, but there's no other special exception or anything like that.
Let me ask about that, Jonathan. Was that pertaining to the retaining wall and the vertical element being a buffer?
Correct,
Okay.
between to buffer the residential.
Okay, because that wall is very close to those residences back there, and surprised they're not here, but maybe that's part of this issue.
Well, sure, yes.
So from my perspective, what's to be gained is the community engagement and confidence in the changes to the neighborhood. The developer is obviously confident in what they're doing, and I'm sure all of the experts and folks that look at it are confident. But at the end of the day, this is a public commission for the public good. And so from my perspective as a member of the public, if we have the opportunity to understand what's going on and see transparently what the impact is going to be, we can be partners and we can be excited about it or not. And so while you might not be able to measure public engagement as a good or a bad, and it might not show up in the requirements or the zoning ordinance, I do believe that there's benefit to be gained. We have a neighborhood council meeting Monday night. For us to be able to talk about these things as a neighborhood, I think that there is a positive good to allow for that deliberation.
So I would like to comment that I appreciate y'all coming and speaking. I do want to get some clarification if the signs were posted, but just for clarification's sake, the only thing we have purview on approving today is the site plan, not what they go vertical with.
No, understood. All right, and all we're working from is the site plan as well, but to my knowledge, we're the only two people on the council that have seen the site plan. We haven't had an opportunity to talk about it with our, neighbors, and I think that there's a benefit to allowing us to do that and engage as a public community for a major site plan in our neighborhood. So that's what I would see the benefit.
Thank you. So I do have a question. I mean, the signs are posted and...
This is a major site plan, and major site plans do not require that the property be posted.
Okay.
I thought the lady who spoke said that there was a sign, or there was 0 signs? Okay.
I did not see a sign. If there had been a sign, I understand, and I think it's a wonderful practice. When they post a sign, they take a picture so they can prove that the sign has been posted. So I don't know if a sign was posted. It may not have been needed in this, but we had no way of knowing in the neighborhood because there's no signs posted, there's been no contact with us, there's been no emails because our names are not on the list anymore. They will be now. Thank you all for doing that. There's just been a whole variety of things. All we knew that was a 55-unit multifamily. Well, that can be, families can include students. So we're hearing some things, this time that we've not heard before. And I'm not saying that we're against it. I'm just saying that we would like to be at the table and know about what's going on. Plus, there is the Divine Street corridor that is ramping up now. And they've held the first public hearing actually at the request of the Shandon Neighborhood Council. So they're just now starting that process. And this particular block, I believe, is in that first development area that they're talking about for that plan. Okay.
Thank you.
Mr. Chair, I just want to add that, my experience on this commission, I've noticed that projects tend to be a lot more successful when the community buys in, and a lot of times when they don't, we see the applicants right back in front of us. So I'm tempted to agree with that. Deferring just might be the best option, especially just given the community that is being mentioned here. I feel like there's a high probability that if we recommend approval without giving them an opportunity to at least sit down with the applicant, there's a high probability that the applicant's going to be in front of us again anyways.
I appreciate that. I do have a couple questions though. So just to clarify, major site plans do not require signage postings?
That is correct. However, when we do meet with applicants, we do recommend that they do meet with the neighborhood associations.
How many neighborhood associations are over there that would conceivably, claim that they're, affected by this?
Maybe about...
That can legitimately can take it is our neighborhood because it's on our side of the street, because the Shandon Neighborhood Council goes from Hardin, here we go, to Kilburn and Divine to Rosewood. And it's on our side of Divine. Now, across the street, you have Old Shandon, you have maybe some others. At that particular point, I think it might just be Old Shandon.
Thank you. I would put to the commission. I'm personally sympathetic to everyone's lens on this, but it appears they're well within their rights by right here. And I don't necessarily know what would be accomplished either.
I want to clarify something with staff. Whether we recommend this for approval or denial, it will need to go on to city council, correct, or no?
Incorrect. It wouldn't go to city council. Correct.
Wait, it would go to?
It would
It
not.
would not.
It would not.
I mean, this is it. The building doesn't go to DDRC.
Correct.
This is the only approval at this level. Mr. Chair, Ms. Hodges raised her hand. I don't know if you want to give her an opportunity to respond again.
Yes. I apologize for missing that.
Okay. I just wanted to say, that we're glad to set up a meeting with the Shandon Neighborhood Association and show them details of what we have so far. It's not a final plan, nor do we have final finishes. It's actually what I talked to the Divine Street Association about, so we will meet when we get to that point, and we're glad to share what we're doing. But as far as like, are we doing what's within our rights and what's allowed by zoning in the UDO, I think that we have really tried hard to meet those things. And I worked with Andrew Livingood on a couple different things that didn't quite meet it, and we made changes so that we did. So we worked hard in that realm to make sure that we're doing what we're supposed to do. Glad to meet with the neighborhood association and share and listen to their comments and thoughts and take them into consideration. So I just wanted to say that.
Thank you. Any further
One
comments?
more. Can the applicant defer the project themselves in this venue, or do we have to make a motion? Can the applicant voluntarily defer
That's a good question.
or withdraw temporarily, whatever you want to call it?
Yeah, I think so.
They can.
If they like to defer, I mean, they can state that they would like to defer to the next meeting.
That answer, okay. Any
I
other-
guess before the board, before the planning commission deliberates too, going back to what you were saying as far as the options, and about the deferral or denial, if the planning commission would like to deny the, request, we would just make sure that it had that they stated a reason in which they were denying the request and how it did not meet the requirements of the code.
So while we're all going on record, I agree. I think I'm sympathetic that you guys would like to be involved in the conversation. The reality of that is that's not a requirement. I think that the applicant has done everything else that is required of them based on staff has said thus far. And I don't think that deferring or denying changes anything. And I think if the applicant's committed to having a discussion offline to shore up any concern, I think that'd be great. Again, I don't feel like that's mandatory, and I don't think that changes or impacts the decision that we have to make.
Thank you. Any additional comments, or discussion? All right. We will take a motion.
Mr. Chair, I'd like to make a motion that we approve major site plan approval for S-Plan 2025-0007, conditional upon all staff comments being addressed and that it meets site plan decision standards.
Thank you. We have a motion. Do I have a second?
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The motion passes. And I don't know, do we have any other business? No other business.
One thing real quick for other business. Tomorrow, there is a continuing education opportunity at 1 o'clock This is from the APA Urban Design and Preservation Division, and it's about reimagining auto-oriented landscapes to improve connectivity and revitalize public spaces. So if you all are interested or need some credits, come on over to city planning offices, and we will accommodate you.
Thank you.
Yes, tomorrow.
Got a question about that. I understand we need, for Madeline, I asked, is it virtual? I love sitting at my desk and attending virtual meetings. Couldn't we have a camera on and be verified that we're attending?
Camera for a
I
camera?
don't know that they, I mean, we can ask that question, but it feels like there was a period of time where they allowed that, and then they
So you've been through
said it
that?
had to be back in person with,
Kinda like-
the state requires it, yeah. So,
No option?
sorry. Sometimes it's good to just get away from your desk, you know what I mean? I said, sometimes it's good to get away from your desk, so. You don't have to come tomorrow, but we'll have other opportunities, but it sounds like an interesting one if you are interested, so. All right, thank you.
All right. And thanks again for everyone's work on that new downtown plan. That's going to be good. Guess that wraps us up. We get a motion to adjourn.
Mr. Chair, make a motion to adjourn.
A second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
All right.